Yeah, no, I opened it up. I got a big puff of like a second puff of flame. It hit my arm. It went back immediately. I looked and oh look, some of my arm hairs have been singed. Neat.
What the fuck are you doing? I'm cooking. I just fire everywhere. I'm fine.
It's fine. It's all fine as I sit and drink coffee.
So this weekend's Natal Day weekend, and part of me is still. It's weird that I'm not preparing to do the Natal Day parade. You know, the long, hot trek and
slog across the bridge.
Yeah, and Angel brought up the memory from it's like 8 years ago now. I think that particular parade was where we turned up. She was hungover as fuck, and we got stalled walking across the McDonald Bridge. She says she's remembering it incorrectly because she says she puked in that garbage can, but she didn't actually. But she came close. And she was hurting that day. That was a long time ago now. Jeez.
8 years, yeah, like that's.
Did you guys see the footage? That fucking explosion today?
Holy!
Not yet.
A little bit, yeah.
In Beirut?
Yeah. No, the other giant explosion. Yes,
That was in
Beirut.
the
No,
bathroom.
I have.
You know what? It's 2020. It could happen.
Fair enough. Now, the first one I saw one. Oh, I see several angles, but the first one I saw was that Twitter one I posted in Flinncast earlier, and I think it was the most terrifying angle of all because the guy's on his balcony. I'm like, oh yeah, it's burning. But then it explodes like a fucking movie special effect, and suddenly the shockwaves. Hello, I'm at your door.
Yeah, you could see it actually like moving along and coming towards him.
I think they said 10 kilometers away.
Yeah,
It's unbelievable.
Windows?
Yeah, something like that for Windows. All the local hospitals are damaged beyond the point of they can't help the wounded.
Yeah.
They're looking at declaring emergency for I think 2 weeks is what they said to try to deal with it. But they said it was like 2,700 tons of ammonium nitrate that was stored on the docks.
Like I've only seen the picture of what happened. Do they know how it happened? Like what was the
early? So it's still obviously because it's going to take a while to get the full thing. But the warehouse that was on fire stored a lot. Apparently, had been under investigation for a while for safety infractions. Since 2014, they've been storing a lot of explosives there, particularly ammonium nitrate, which is used in fertilizer. It's also what every single pipe bomb and every IED is ever made. And it was all stored in this one warehouse on the docks. So it caught fire. They said there was a small explosion, and then you see that massive one in the video, and that's the second one. And then basically, so they don't know what caused the fire or the initial explosion, but if everything was stored there, it's once that goes, and that's what. Because people were like, well, what is it? Because it was almost like a mushroom cloud effect. But the way ammonium nitrate would explode, it's like, no, that's what it would do.
Well, that's what Timothy McVeigh used. Timothy McVeigh?
Yep, exactly. Except a much smaller quantity.
Smaller amount. Yep. And
I've never seen anything like that. You could in that split second when it spreads out, you could see it destroying everything in its path. Like that was fucking terrifying.
I'm just looking at a picture now. I mean, just a still picture, but it looks like a friggin' mushroom cloud.
Yeah, it does.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to some happier news. Jenny is today's Jenny's birthday, so happy birthday to Jenny. She's relaxing to some Star Trek movies today, but she said the big painting is out for delivery to our buddy Rod Roddenberry. So I would keep an eye on his social media for the next few days.
Yes.
That's exciting.
Fingers crossed for something cool. Wouldn't it be cool if he gets it, puts it up, and does like this cool shout out? That'd be awesome.
Oh, that's what I'm hoping for.
Very awesome.
So,
All right, let's just go down my list here. Old Guard 2. Sounds like they're going to do it. They just can't yet.
Oh.
I know. But yeah, it's just it sounds like the writer and everybody, like they think it's probably a good chance of it happening, but just it's just right now can't commit to shit.
It really needs to be a series, like it legit does. But
Agreed.
And it doesn't surprise me they can't film it right now, of course, but at least they committed to it, so that's a good thing.
I think the interest is there. It was a huge hit on Netflix. I loved it. I think we all loved it, and I would love to see more. I agree. I would prefer. I'll take a movie, but I would prefer a series for sure.
It'd be nice. Like, I really liked it. So,
Couple quick Star Wars bits. I saw a quote on Reddit by Tamir Morrison, Django, who kind of went on record saying he would love to play an older Rex, and he would love to get that phone call.
Ooh,
that'd be pretty awesome.
That'd be very cool.
would be.
Like, is anyone listening? Let him do it.
Now,
The
here's
other-
the question.
Yeah.
Did Rex survive Endor?
We don't know. Do we? I don't think we do.
I'm trying to remember. There was that Galaxy's whatever short with Hera and Han after Andor, and I can't remember if he was in it or not.
I
No,
don't know.
he wasn't in it because it was mostly just Leia and Hera and everybody finding out that Ghost can beat the Millennium Falcon in the Kessel Run.
Well, we're going to see him as Old Man Fett in Mandalorian anyway, which is going to be awesome. I love Tamir Morrison. He's a lot of fun. I also heard a rumor today that we're going to get a Mandalorian trailer this month. I don't know if that's true or not. Anybody hear anything?
Yeah, I saw the Reddit post, and I'm like, why are you so confident of that?
It was around this time last year that we got our first trailer for season 1.
Fingers crossed. So I saw the Star Wars fans were commemorating Wilford Brimley, one of the most famous mustaches in the world, died, and they were remembering him for playing Noah in the Ewok adventure. Remember that as a kid?
Classic Ewok adventure.
You know, I liked that movie as a kid. I didn't really watch the following two, but I remember. I mean, it's like, oh, Ewok, Star Wars. I was all excited, but I remember that movie scaring the living shit out of me as a kid. Like, it fucking terrified me. Wilford Brimley was also in what I maintain is the greatest action movie of all time. Remo Williams, The Adventure Begins, with Fred Ward and Joel Grey. Best fucking action movie ever made.
I'm ashamed to say I've never heard of it until now.
It's one of those ones people haven't really heard of, but it is awesome. You remember back in the 80s when they were doing construction on the Statue of Liberty and they had all that scaffolding around it?
Yeah, vaguely.
They do a big fucking action fight scene on a lot of that scaffolding. It's hilarious.
There's going to be a Who's the Boss sequel.
What?
But what?
Starring
Seriously?
Tony Danza and Alyssa Milano. It's in development. Yeah, comic book news. I just got the pop-up.
No way.
Deadline's
These-
reporting for that's relatively like Deadline's usually pretty good for.
Does it say what the premise of it is? What is he gonna? Is Tony gonna be Sam's housekeeper now?
Take place 30 years after the events of the original series, centered around former Major League Baseball player, retired housekeeper Tony Maselli, and his relationship with his daughter Samantha Maselli. She is now a single mother, living in the house the original series was set in.
Oh my god, they're gonna use the house?
Yeah, thematically, the show will explore generational differences as well as opposing worldviews and parenting styles within the dynamic of a modern family in 2020.
So Tony's grandpa now.
Probably, yeah.
That could be
And I'm
good.
assuming that Alyssa Milano will be high the entire time.
She's like badass.
Oh, she is. Okay.
She takes no shit.
Yeah, no, she is badass. I like her.
All right, Merida, let's finish up Warrior Nun.
All right. I liked it.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Very in depth.
Thank you. Thank you. No, it was really good. Some of it was a little obvious kind of coming. I don't think Cryos was particularly satisfied with the ending. And I say this with him going, "What? Is that an ending?" He was sitting beside me.
I'm with him.
That was an unsatisfactory ending. Like, we didn't get to see. I was. Since this has seemed to have been we watch her become the Warrior Nun over the course of the episodes, that's fine. But I really wanted like a good ass kickery scene at the end, and we just didn't get it.
You're right.
Yep.
That, it was interesting to see. And this, I got to tell you, this is like at this point completely diverged from my remembering of any of the graphic novel, because the whole angel thing, like the original Warrior Nun goes back to it's kind of got a Norse tie-in too, so like that's all different anyway, but it totally diverged. I liked the way it went. I mean, you knew when the angel with my little quotation marks. I don't remember what angel he is. They always start their names with A's and Z's and then they just blur together. When he came through the portal and the Charask came after him, you knew.
Mhm.
you're like, that's no angel.
Aliens, man. Aliens.
Not an angel at all. Like, so I mean, it was cool. I like in the graphic novel, like the Halo thing is not like she's imbued with the power of the Warrior Nun. Like that's not a whole thing. So that whole tie-in doesn't happen. But I like the way they went. I actually grew to like Ava because in the beginning, kind of wanted to smack her a lot.
Yeah.
But I like the direction they took her. I do feel like the last 2 episodes, I feel like when there's the point when they're actually sitting down and they're explaining, okay, here's how this heist is going to go. And they actually explained every step. I'm like, why are you even bothering? Because we all know that that's not how this is going to happen at all. And then I am going to be here at exactly 1:00. Okay, Shotgun Mary, you go, because that ain't happening ever. And then, you kind of get to the point where they're doing the badass walk-in when I didn't need to stop you forever. I just need to stop you for 7 minutes. And then she like parts through. Like that was badass and I liked it. But it was also like,
yeah, and I was expecting ass kickery at that point, and then they cut. And I'm like, the fuck?
That's what cliffhangers are all about. It makes you want to see season 2.
There's cliffhangers, and then there's sort of a fizzle out. I expected a little more.
Well, the problem is, as of right now, we don't know that they've renewed.
Oh, come on.
No.
The way that this thing has been getting ratings and been like on their top 10 and such for a while, it's gonna get a season 2.
Netflix has not renewed a lot of stuff that has actually done real well, though. It's the thing. And if it's expensive to produce, especially right now, they may not, is the problem. So, I don't know. Like, I feel like it did well, but I don't think it did as well as they thought it was going to tell you the truth. I really think they were hoping to have the next Buffy, and I don't know if they did. Now, I will be disappointed because I really enjoyed it and I want to know more. But I don't know if it got enough. I hope so, because it would be a really shitty ending. It's going to be very much like Angel and everybody walking in to kill the dragon. And then I'm like, oh, well, okay, then I'm going to have to hope the comic book finishes that, I guess.
Well, let's think about this. How many series right now, like continuing series, does Netflix have that they can really rely on? Like they no longer have Orange is the New Black. They no longer have the old Kevin Spacey vehicle that's been shut down now. There's a lot of stuff that people were really binging on Netflix that they just don't have now. So Netflix is looking for new stuff.
They have Stranger Things. They have the Umbrella Academy right now.
Okay, so there you go. Umbrella Academy. That sucker probably would cost a hell of a lot more, considering season 2, which by the way I loved. That had a load of as many special effects as Warrior Nun did.
Absolutely, but which one had better ratings?
Yeah, Umbrella Academy's got the steam at the moment.
Right? Like, that's the thing. If you can only have X number of expensive shows to produce.
Especially right now.
Right? Like, which one?
But actually, I wouldn't be surprised if their subscriber count is up, because what the fuck has there been to do the last 5 months but sit on your couch and watch TV?
Oh, no. Netflix has been doing quite well, apparently.
Yeah, I think their viewership is up.
Yeah.
Also, we've only watched the first episode of the second season, and it hooks you, like, immediately.
Yeah, if enough of us watch it by next week, we can do it then, but otherwise the standard 2 weeks. But I had a feeling...
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I had a feeling that this show would be one that we'd get through pretty quick as far as watching.
We really only do, like, an episode or 2 a night. Like, we usually watch it while we're eating supper, and then somebody has something to do, so we only ever get 2 episodes in.
Right. So, Juice raises a good point, though. Like, I used to binge House of Cards quite constantly in the background because I actually like political thrillers. But once all that shit about Spacey came out, I was like, fuck, I can't watch this anymore.
Yep. Totally. Well, kill you. Like it sucks the enjoyment out of something. So
It really
like
did.
like don't get me wrong with this. I hope with all my fiery hot being that this show gets another season. Like I
Fiery hot is right.
Oh, thanks. Like I hope, I really want this. But, and this is coming from somebody who fucking loves that universe too, and loved Buffy and loved all of that kind of witty genre sort of evil killing. But if you're gonna say to me, you can have a season of Old Guard or you can have a season of Warrior Nun, I think I'm gonna pick Old Guard.
It's probably cheaper to make too, because not really a lot of special effects.
I just like the female characters a little bit better, which is weird because they still like I mean, I'm glad that they did what they did with Lilith in this, because in the comic books, she is this weird, she is the like in the comic books, she's a demon princess, but she is an opportunistic demon princess who helps whatever side is kind of most convenient for her.
That was a point I was going to bring up to you, Merritt, is that Lilith stayed a good guy till the end of the season.
Yeah, we really didn't get. Well, I think we were all kind of expecting, Lilith is going to turn at the last second, especially when she slashes that guy's throat open, or girl's throat open, I guess. But like, I was expecting more payoff for that. But cool that she stayed the good guy for now.
For now, like I think that, yeah, for now. But that's the whole thing. Lilith's never 100% bad. Yeah, like it's all, she comes back to like, well, how is this going to benefit me though?
Maybe the writers were playing sort of the long game, thinking that if we do get a season 2, then they'd start doing more stuff with Lilith, in season 2. Or
yeah, there's lots of breadcrumbs.
Yeah,
I think there has to be, because I don't know why you would use that particular character.
Like, to go to all that effort.
Yeah, like they've made up other nuns, like some of them. Yeah, like some of the obviously Mother Superior exists and Shaka Mary exists.
But I don't think Beatrice
does. Camille does not, I think, or vice versa. But anyway, like they could have easily made up a nun. Like
Camilla looks like she's 12. I always find it funny when she's on screen.
So, Cryus, last week's cast, you said how much of Cardinal Duretti was a dick. What do you think of him now?
Still a dick, just slightly less of a dick.
It's funny, Damon and I were talking about how we thought that was going to go. And Damon said, he's like, you know what? I think he is a minor annoying dick bad guy, but I don't think he's the bad guy. And I was like, I kind of agree with you. And
he's the umbrage.
I started to add up with Vincent. There were a couple things from the time he went to the guy to get the map.
Yeah, he turns out to be a badass with sleeve tats.
There were things that started to not completely make sense that he was doing, but I didn't see the complete play for sure. But like, it was just really convenient for him to know exactly where that map was going to be and who to go to exactly get. I'm like, really?
Yeah, I found a lot of stuff going kind of into the third act of the season. A lot of plot conveniences occurred, like, the quintessential, the book with all the answers and to create a plan. You know what I mean?
But that's the whole thing. They were conveniently put there so she would find them, so they would find the map, so they would let what's his face that starts with A, the angel, demon,
Adriel,
alien, whatever the fuck, Adriel. Like, seriously, I got Azrael, Azazel,
Aziraphale.
Maybe we could just have like
Angel Bob.
Yeah, well, or something that started with like, I don't know, like an L. Maybe, something else.
There's lots of other angel names. I mean, we've all seen Supernatural. Right? Come on, right?
Right? There's like, you just put a Riel or a Zazazozol on the end, and you've got like perfectly good angel name. And speaking of perfectly good angel names, her son. Oh, yeah, no.
You beat me to it. His name's Michael. Come on.
Yeah, I noted that.
As like I said to because Damon being my son, for those of you who are listening who aren't one of us in this group. So maybe none of you, but anyway, so he's my son, and he and I are both very big Supernatural fans. So when we realized the kid's name was Michael, we're like, oh, like worst fucking archangel nightmare asshole name ever, like ever. And Matt's all like, but Michael's an archangel. I'm like, oh.
Why do you think he's trying to get to heaven so fast?
Right? Like the archangels are the biggest assholes. Like they just are.
His name's Michael, and his mom's been feeding him divinium for God knows how long, right? And he pops through that portal to ? And I'm like, oh, here we go. He's gonna come back as like,
he's a miracle baby. She wasn't supposed to be able to get pregnant, and she did all of these scientific things to get pregnant. Well, what if it wasn't the science at all?
No, he's a dickhead archangel in a human boy's body who mainline divinium like heroin until he can get back home.
Well, but I couldn't tell how happy he was, whether he was happy that she was getting through to through the tomb or not. Like he seemed happy at first, but then he was all like, yeah, let's go to the portal. Come with me, mommy. No. And I can't figure out, oh my gosh, I forget his name. The archivist guy that was working with her.
Sure, I know who you mean. I don't know the name.
Like then he saw all of those things and started to cry. And then he went to her when they were trying to leave. Like, I can't figure out what made him cry.
I think it was the crazy vision drawings that he stumbled across in their private living quarters, because in my mind clearly all of those drawings were from the kid, right? So this entire tech that she's dreamed up is based off of drawings from a questionable child.
No, but see, I don't think that at all. I think because he knows so much about the Bible, because that was his jam, right, beforehand.
Schaefer.
Yeah, thank you. I think that he saw all of these things and suddenly something clicked for him that this is some sort of prophecy-ish thing.
Divine providence.
The Ark of the Covenant, or something like that. I don't know. I feel like that was too much crying for going, shit, everybody's crazy.
That was some kind of crazy, revelation that just blew his mind.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see what that is. So I mean, I have so many questions, and I really seriously hope they renew it. I'm a little scared that they won't, but I've spent my whole life liking shows that don't get renewed, so it's I just don't get my hopes up anymore. Maybe I'll be happily surprised, and it'll be cool. But
I personally think it'll go a second season, and then Netflix will judge it. We'll see if they're getting as high or higher ratings. If they get higher, it'll probably go on a third season, but I think it's going to go at least a second.
Well, there's a lot of material. Even if they dip it back into any of the other kind of stuff, there's a lot of material that they can pull from if they choose to. We didn't even get to see the magic priests. Whatever. I'm glad, because they're assholes.
You know what we did get to see, though? A nun using nunchucks.
Right? That's just... She's all
That's
just
perfect.
I got 5 of these, so just stay out of the way. Okay.
Ugh. So cliche.
Imagine being the nun. He's like, all right, what's your weapon specialty going to be? Nunchucks. Seriously? Yeah.
I liked that Beatrice's story, because I think that they were going to, I mean, I'm assuming they were alluding to the fact that she may be gay.
I think so.
Is gay.
I think there's a maybe.
I think, no. I mean, they don't come out to say. So, you don't know. She could be bi, she could be anything. But part of the LGBTQ community, for sure, I think. Which is interesting, because Shotgun Mary is actually in the comic books. So I'm glad to see that they're actually going to have some representation. Obviously, they did it in the comic books. It was a little bit more less about inclusion and more about badass shock value, I think, at that point in the 90s.
The 90s.
It was good. I liked the fact that they didn't actually kind of come up and slap you in the face with it, which was nice. So I don't know. I thought it was pretty well done.
I think Beatrice is probably my favorite character. I like her.
Mine too. She was actually the one that I obviously I like Shock and Mary too, but Ava's probably my least favorite. To tell you the
I
truth.
think I agree.
But yeah, like she's got, I think, the most interesting story that we haven't been told as well.
Although, as Cry said last week, Ava's character is entirely believable in everything she does and says.
No, it's absolutely like she has been in a bed in an orphanage for like what, I don't know, she's probably 19, 18, like I don't know how old they actually made her to be, but obviously an adult because they were getting ready to kick her out of the orphanage, so it depends on when that is in Spain. So like absolutely she gets to be an asshole. She's probably earned the right to be an asshole, but it doesn't make her any more likable for me watching it.
Well, I hope they do, even if they are kind of hedging their bets right now. I hope they do a season 2 because I was, like I said, I was interested the entire time. That's pretty much my metric for, you know, a show, as if it holds my interest, and it totally did. So I would love to see more.
Like if I don't, like, because for us we watch together, and so it's something that we all have to get everybody's schedules to kind of coincide so we can watch it. Like for us to make all that effort and to watch it all the way through, and for me not to just go, you know, I'm over this. Like, I don't want to watch the rest of this. Then, I mean, that's happened with a few shows.
Yeah,
And
we didn't make it all the way through the second season of Altered Carbon either.
I guess that's a wrap on Warrior Nun, unless you had any more thoughts, Merida.
Nope, that's all I got.
And we release you from the impending discussion on the Cybertronian Civil War.
Like, seriously, all I have to bring to Transformers is Beast Wars. That's all I have.
You know what? I will spend as many of these casts as anyone likes talking about Beast Wars. I fucking love
because
Beast
it was
Wars.
amazing.
It was amazing.
I still think the artwork and the animation, even this day, like what is it, 25, 22 years later, whatever, it still looks really good.
That's painful.
And it veers into G1 stuff all the time, and is actually a continuation chronologically. Yeah, I love Beast Wars.
As soon as the end of season 2 where they find the Ark, and it's like, oh shit,
my head.
This is Earth.
Although, in all fairness, we're Canadians, so it's not Beast Wars. It's just Beast
Machines.
No. Beast Machines was the second show. They called it fucking Beasties.
Beasties.
Right. I fucking hated Beast Machines. I'll just put that out there.
It was the worst because they couldn't use the word wars in a children's show in Canada, was my understanding. Like, I don't know how they explain Star Wars at all, but apparently
no TV shows, right?
But there were. I guess maybe they didn't have Star Wars in the name.
It wasn't in the name because it was like droids and Ewoks.
Yeah.
90s was kind of a desert for Star Wars properties, though, you know?
True.
Yeah, just books and comics, right?
Wasn't much out there.
No screen stuff.
It was just all very weird because I can remember shopping for action figures because that's what I was purchasing them for. They weren't for me. Maybe I played with them, but they weren't for me. But there were a lot of them in my house, including like the big giant, like Optimus, like apey guy, and like all of the, like, we had a lot. And trying to find them online, and at first going like, what the fuck is Beast Wars? Why do they look the same? What the hell is happening? And then,
heaven forbid we use the word wars in the name, but watch the show and these assholes are blowing each other apart every week.
Right? Like, I don't know. It was weird. But then we, that whole animation style like that, and Reboot, and Battle Planets. Like in Battle Planets, right? Battle Planets was the other one that came out after Reboot.
Beast Wars had a ton of female Transformers too, like a really good characters like Air Razor and Black
Arachnia. Yeah,
she was awesome.
Well, they made, which was nice because they actually made stuff for the little girls a little bit, which was nice because that wasn't something that they did all that much at that time, so it was actually pretty cool.
Okay, realistically, there's only one on each side, so I guess
Shadow Raiders.
Oh yeah, I remember Shadow Raiders.
Yeah, that was the same time. It was the same people that did, because it goes with the War Planets toys. That's what I was thinking, but they called it Shadow Raiders because War Planet was a problem too.
Unrelated, I maintain that Rhinox is the best character in all of Beast Wars.
You know, Rhinox was the only character through the entire run of Beast Wars that didn't get any sort of upgrade other than Waspinator. Like, everyone else went Transmetal, went through a few bodies. Rhinox was the same from beginning to end.
He's like, I'm OG, motherfucker. Eat my Gatling guns.
I'm all about Black Arachnia.
Of course you are.
And the love story.
With Silverbolt? Or the creepy love story with Cheetor?
With Air Razor, anyway.
The Air Razor's with Tigatron.
Air Razor. Oh, right.
Yeah, and they eventually merged into Tigerhawk. But yeah, it was Black Arachnia and Silverbolt, very unlikely couple. I remember there was a commercial. There was a commercial for Beast Wars, and it was like a romantic song, and it was a lot of footage of Black Arachnia and Silverbolt. And at the end of the commercial, some guy goes, where's the fighting?
I like the fact that Silverbolt was just the most ridiculously awesome Dudley Do-Right character.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's just the best. But I don't know. I liked Black Rat. I liked Cheetor. I know that he was annoying, and he was like the annoying kid that you wanted to
He's
smack.
Bumblebee. I would always make G1 comparisons to the different characters.
Sure. And I don't know. I did like Air Razor, actually.
She was underused, but she was super cool.
Yeah, she was cool.
Yeah, I didn't really like that they just kind of took Tigatron and Air Razor and be like, LOL, go do long range reconnaissance until we need you 5 episodes from now.
Yep.
And Rat Trap. I enjoyed Rat Trap.
He was actually in the IDW Transformer comic run a couple years ago. Those ones I'm always raving about how good they were. And he was, because Starscream got elected president of Cybertron. I'll figure that one out. And he was like Starscream's kind of dirty job guy. Like, Rat Trap, not a good guy.
He pulls explosives out of his forearms. It doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
Rat. So that ends up being good. Like, I mean, it's always, I like the fact that, I mean, it was really a cool idea if you think about it, that, you take these like characters that can transform, but then give them sort of this animal anthropomorphize, robots instead, which is really cool. But then you give them, like, I don't know, the imagined personality that people imagine a rat will have, or that they imagine a rhinoceros would have, or that, they imagine a spider would have. Which is cool. I think that it was really well done. But I will go so you guys can talk about the one that I don't know anything about.
Okay. Thanks, Merida.
Good night.
All right. Transformer Siege. First 6 episodes of part 1. It's going to be a trilogy, I believe.
Yep.
So I loved the story. Wasn't a great fan of the art.
I love the art.
I loved it too.
Now, this is another one of those Netflix anime originals, right? And I've always had a problem with these because they always look very lifeless and stuff. It's kind of working better for this because these are essentially, it's based on the Siege toy line. These are essentially the toys running around. But even still, I mean, they looked good, but it's when they moved. To me, when, like, especially Ultra Magnus, who was big and blocky, it looked like kind of Toy Story Buzz Lightyear running around, and it was a little awkward for me.
I just didn't like that they reused the models for, like, the background characters. Like, Starscream is one of, like, 10, whatever the heck they're called. Like, Starscream is not his typical jet by itself.
Right. And see, that's another thing. Like, the Seekers, they all kind of look the same, but you're right. Like, a lot of, and this has been happening since the first wave of Generation 1, there's certain models that look the same, like Ironhide and Ratchet, the Decepticon jets, Prowl and Blue Streak. There's a lot of them. We're used to it, but they did overuse, I thought, cloning those characters and recoloring them for the background. Like, Sideswipe and Red Alert had the same body, but there was a lot of recolored Sideswipes. But then there was guys like Hound and Mirage. Those were unique robots that didn't have, clone-type characters.
Same with Alita, and I don't remember the other girl Transformer.
Chromia and Moonracer. Yeah, Chromia and Moonracer were like palette swaps too. They had the same body.
Honestly, I think they did it on purpose as a callback to the original toys, which most of them were just repaints. That's all they ever were.
Yeah.
Story-wise, I think it makes sense too. So you got to remember, they're on Cybertron, the home planet. I mean, there's you would think there's going to be a fair amount of clones, different personalities, yes, but clones of the same thing, of the same vehicle or the same body type, because I mean they are robots. We're born. These things are made. Slight difference.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, if you go by those comics again, they get into Transformers reproduction, and I don't know. They're not.
Yeah, I've never actually known that. Like, are Autobots constructed, quote unquote, or are they like I don't know? Do they build a body and jam a spark into it?
In the comics, they had two ways of being created. There was forged, which meant you came from like an energon, or rather a spark hotspot, and you were sort of grown naturally into a protoform body, and then you would naturally turn into, you might naturally become a plane, you might naturally become a car. And then there was constructed cold, where they managed to find a way to sort of replicate sparks, and they were put into ready to, they called them the RTMs, ready to something bodies. And then you were born into, say, like Megatron. His body was supposed to be, he was like a miner, so he had a big powerful body, so his body was constructed. Megatron, actually a unique case, because he ended up with a forged spark in a constructed body, so he was unique, which is why he was so powerful. But yeah, there was two ways of being born: forged and constructed cold. It was super interesting. They really got into it.
I mean, the character for me that stood out was Alita, and she's like rolling her eyes at everything Optimus is doing, because she's like, seriously, dude, come on. Why are we doing this? We're going on from this seemingly wild goose chase.
Yeah, Optimus is very naive in this series, where it's like, yep, no, we're going to do that. And yeah, her reaction really is but why?
The guy doing Optimus's voice was pretty good. He was pretty close to the classic. The only time I found he wasn't that on was when Optimus would get really worked up and angry and shout and shit. Like, 80s Optimus never really got carried away.
Peter Cullen does not yell.
Exactly. The guy doing Starscream was fucking perfect.
Oh yeah.
Oh
no,
yeah.
That was
amazing.
It was.
I really
was
like Jetfire too.
You know what? I mean, I really like this show. I'm subjecting it to a harsh critique, because if you're going to use classic G1 designs and themes, I'm going to critique it hard. I think they fucked up Jetfire's character big time. In the 80s cartoon, he was a scientist who got tricked into being a Decepticon, and then he joined the Autobots, and they kind of did to him switching sides in this. But he wasn't a very good guy. He was like violent and warrior-like, and the gentle scientist of Jetfire, they just didn't do that at all.
See, I'm used to like later generations, because obviously I'm not as old as you guys and didn't grow up with G1. So I'm used to him being like the only Autobot flyer all the time.
I actually kind of like the way they evolved him from loyal Decepticon to loyal Autobot. The move from one to the other made sense. I like the way they did it here. So
I'm way too mired in G1 shit. So, but yeah, I agree. Like he drew the line and then he switched. So I did like that.
I liked that Optimus and Megatron had a pre-existing relationship before this series started.
Well, it very much reminds me of it was very much like a Professor X and Magneto. They both had a goal. They just veered in different directions,
and they respected each other.
Jetfire, yes, and with Jetfire in particular, I feel like Jetfire, ignoring the fact that I remember the G1 as well, I actually did enjoy this iteration of him, but I also looked at it as like, I liked how they did it, where he's loyal to the cause, but then he's not quite happy with how things are going with the cause. He's like, why can't we just have prisoners? He's like, we've crossed a line that he's not as comfortable with, so he's becoming disillusioned with the cause a little bit. He still believes in the end goal, but he's a little bit questioning that, which is mirrored. It's almost mirrored with Ultra Magnus, who gets mirrored. He's the other way. He believes in the cause, but he's starting to have doubts with Optimus's way and wants to negotiate later.
Good points.
Was definitely not expecting Ultra Magnus to cross the aisle. Definitely was not. That, like, I could see the frustration, but at the end of the day, I thought he would just kind of put up with it. Did not expect him to be like, hey, Megatron, stop being a douche.
And so quickly, too.
Yeah, like first or start of second episode, I think.
The first, actually. You see him walking towards Megatron's throne room, wherever, and the way he's shaped with those big
It's the shoulders.
You know it's Ultra Magnus.
Yeah, that cloak wasn't hiding shit.
Yeah, I did have a moment when that happened, and I'm like, no. You can't have him switch side. No, that can't. There's a lot of that.
Oh, by the way, I only know Ultra Magnus from later stuff. What is his vehicle mode?
A car carrier.
Oh, okay, so it's still a car carrier. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
The toy is just a recolored all white version of Optimus's body.
Gotcha.
And then
I'm used to the
trailer.
I'm trying to think. See, I watched the G1 movie like back when I was a kid, and that was my only like where Hot Rod gets the Matrix of Leadership when Optimus dies.
Yep.
I'm not sure if that's G1 or not, but
It is. Yep.
My like first, other than Beast Wars, because that's a whole thing on its own. My first like actual Transformers is the one where Optimus is a fire truck.
That was the Robots in Disguise version in the early 2000s.
Yes, that would be it. Yeah, I would have been about 10 or 11 years old. So.
Yep, that one was a little more Japanimation-y. I actually watched it and enjoyed it though. It was pretty cool. And that fire truck Optimus looks great on a shelf.
Yeah, and Ultra Magnus is a car carrier, I think, for that one too.
Yep.
So going back to the voices, I do have a gripe.
You tell.
Because I love Soundwave.
Oh, I should have seen this one coming.
Oh, no, and I think I know what you're going to say. I probably agree with you, but let's go ahead.
I wish they should have. I wish they would have had a little bit more of him, and I'm hoping in the second series that we will see more of him as Shockwave's left behind. But just his distinctive voice just wasn't quite there. I wish they had used the distortion like G1 and really made his Soundwave voice. It
wasn't enough, was it?
No, it was like they hit a little bit, but it just wasn't enough.
And it wasn't so much his voice for me. It was his manner of speech. It didn't sound like it was a computer talking, for which a lot of the G1 series, that's what it would. If you ask him a question, it sounded like it was a computer output. From a program.
It was query response. It was very much like that. It was a combination of the distortion itself. With Frank Welker did the distortion with it, but he also and then the mannerisms in which he spoke as well, and so it was lacking. I did like the fact that they threw in the Sound Blaster story, which I really enjoyed seeing Sound Blaster in there, which was kind of cool. That's the kind of batshit crazy warlord.
You know what? I actually didn't like that part because, for one, I mean, I've never heard of this before, and just to me, if you're going to have a guy who's out wheeling and dealing, why wouldn't you have Swindle doing that? You know what I mean? Like the sneakiest Decepticon, sometimes not Decepticon there is. Like Swindle was the guy making deals.
This is true.
They also did a recolored Soundwave, which I was kind of like, they didn't really recolor any of the main Transformers. Like there wasn't
what we're talking about.
Yeah. So
that's who it is. So the reason that was a bit of a throwback was because in the Headmasters series, I think it was, they killed Soundwave, the blue iteration, but Shockwave had made a bunch of clones. Most of them were all defects. Sound Blaster, I think, was the only one that survived, and he was a black paint job. And that was the toy. But it also throws back to the toys, because at one point I think Soundwave was copyrighted, but Sound Blaster wasn't. It's the reason, like Hound for a while you couldn't have.
I remember that. Yeah, there was a lot of names thrown into like legal limbo.
Yeah, so there was weird ones where so they just made it similar. It was similar enough and a little bit different, and so they just did a recolor. And in the Headmaster series, they killed off the old one, had this one, and all the clones were insane. They were all failures, but Sound Blaster actually escaped. And I think that's where he became a warlord, and that's kind of where they were throwing it in there.
Okay, I actually didn't know that backstory, so that, having heard that, I'm a little more okay with it now.
That's one of those things. It's like, okay, I get it. I understand it.
I have to say, my only real gripe with the voice acting, because the Megatron guy was great too. Some of them sounded a little samey for me, but the only one that really bothered me was that Ironhide had a very normal voice. He didn't sound like his old self anymore.
Yeah, he didn't have that Western twang.
Where's that rough and tumble Ironhide?
Yeah, that Marine gunnery sergeant about to chew you out type of voice.
Peter Cullen did his voice too in the old days.
Yeah. Now, what was your take on Ratchet having like how there was people that weren't on either faction?
Go fuck yourself is what Ratchet was all about.
He was an old grump. He was an old grump, so that was perfect for Ratchet. The only thing I found weird about Ratchet was that obviously he was fixing up other Transformers, but he was kind of touted as originally an engineer, which is, I thought, like, that's more Wheeljack's thing. Whereas Red Alert, who's supposed to be like a first responder, was the medic. It just seemed like the roles were a little mixed up for me at the start.
When I first messaged you and was like, "Hey, have you started watching it?" and you said that you weren't quite there, and I was just like, I gotta bite my tongue. Like, Ratchet's gonna be there. You just gotta give him time.
His personality was very on with what Ratchet should be, just sort of the aging medic who's just had enough of your shit.
Yeah.
Seeing the Titans or whatever the heck they were called was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, they handled the Guardians really cool. They were very mysterious.
Oh yeah, and the end when you see Omega Supreme, I definitely had one of those moments of fuck yes.
Yes, Omega Supreme was sufficiently gigantic and powerful, and he made me scream a little inside.
Some pee came out.
Just a little bit. I kind of figured that they were gonna that they're gonna pop out sometime when they introduced the shadowy forms, and then when Prime was speaking to them originally. But yeah, the introduction of Omega Supreme was fairly awesome. I enjoyed it.
Another G1 theme they used was Mirage, because in the old days he always was the kind of guy that everyone had their eye on, because he was kind of a reluctant Autobot, and they're like, Maybe Mirage should have been a Decepticon, so they did that kind of fake out where he was infiltrating the bad guys.
Yeah, and man, that scene where he infiltrates them and then sees the field of impaled Autobots and just like can't hold it together.
And it's funny because they've done this in the comics, even as recently as the IDW comics. Mirage is always the guy they always think he might be a traitor, because in some versions he was this aristocratic snob, who's more suited to being a Decepticon. But he always comes through in the end. Mirage always shows his true colors, and he's always a good guy.
Now, one that I found interesting, I actually had to read it up, was Impactor.
Oh yes, he was one of the wreckers.
Yeah, and I'm like, he's one of the wreckers, but he was like killed off very early originally. And here, apparently, they actually took a vote of which of the original G1 things that never got a toy do you want to see come back?
Oh.
And that's why they brought him back, and then they gave him a fairly prominent role.
That's cool. Yeah, they used Impactor to great effect in those comic runs. But yeah, he was. That's one of those things that I think he might have been in the British version of the comic or something. But yeah, Impactor goes back quite a ways. But yeah, he didn't have a toy like the other wreckers like Roadbuster or Whirl or any of those guys. That's interesting. I like that.
One thing I kind of wish is that I wish they had gone back a bit. Like, I wish this had have started as the Uprising or whatever was first, and then this was the second one. Like, where do the Autobots get the Ark from? And like, what is the war that Megatron, Ultra Magnus, and Optimus fought first before all this stuff?
True, very valid. I'd like to see that too. I do like that they went with the theme that Megatron was sort of a rebellious. He was like a freedom fighter, and you can almost sympathize with his cause, and then eventually he gets caught up in the fucking being a bad guy and goes full on. But they reference that sort of, he might have been right in the beginning, fighting a corrupt Autobot regime.
Yeah, and again, that's where I think a parallel, almost like with the X-Men and Professor X and Magneto, come in. Of they both kind of, at least at the very beginning, started off with the same goal.
Yeah.
Now there's a shot, and it's a blinker, you miss it, but there's actually a portrait. I think it's in his throne room of him. It's Megatron wearing a cape, and he's like standing over some Autobot, just outright murdering him. Any thoughts on who the Autobot is?
If they reference any of the comic runs, it could have been like a former Prime. It could have been Zeta Prime or Sentinel or whichever. Maybe. That's a guess.
What about the leader of both of them that they alleged Megatron actually murdered?
It's not that one. Definitely not that one because Alpha Trion had a very distinctive design. This looks almost like Bumblebee, but without horns.
I'm going to take another look at that.
See if I can.
I found it very interesting in this that Megatron used the line "till all are one." I don't ever remember in any versions of Transformers him using that line.
I am impressed with this series is that they made in the first couple episodes, they make Megatron almost a likable character. I was very impressed with he had he seemed noble. He was willing to discuss terms. He wasn't a homicidal maniac yet.
He accepted surrender.
Exactly, but as the story went on, and he's in his own head starting to realize the futility of trying to end the wars by normal means, do we see a slide from, I'll call it lawful evil to chaotic evil? I actually like that. Like I said, it almost makes Megatron actually, I mean, Megatron himself is a likable character to begin with, but it actually made him. It made him almost like you want to root for the Decepticons, almost.
Yeah, I'm not sure who that is, Varen. I don't recognize it off the.
Yeah, it's just like it had to be important enough to commemorate it.
It's got to be a former Prime because I'm noticing here in this picture, Megatron's got black and yellow hazard striping on his body, and that's what he wore when he was a miner bot, and that's when he started the rebellion, was from the mines, and so that's a little throwback
that
there.
would make sense. That would make sense.
That's where he met Rumble and Frenzy because they had the pile drivers, so they were working in the mines too.
Wait, so refresh my Transformers history. Were the Decepticons quote-unquote slaves or indentured servants to the Autobots, or was there a third race over top of both of them?
Well, it depends which version you go by. In the 80s, they were pretty just straight up bad guys wanting to take over everything. If you go by the IDW comic series, that there was a very corrupt, oppressive Autobot regime using, like I said before, the ready-to-made warriors and workers. So guys like Megatron in the mines, they eventually rose up because they were under horrible conditions. And this is where the Decepticon they become very sympathetic. And they weren't violent at first, they were kind of subversive and writing graffiti on the walls. "You are being deceived." That's where the Decepticon name came from, But yeah, it made the Autobots out be a terribly corrupt regime that needed to be toppled.
I thought it was the Quintessence that created them, and they basically had the two castes under them. So it was like they ruled over all of them, but they treated the Autobots better, and then the Decepticons were the slave.
The Quintessons, they kind of did that in the 80s, but then it kind of got retconned a bit. Like they went into the Transformers origin, and then it sort of kind of evolved into that. The Quintessons came to Cybertron and took it over and made them all like slaves and stuff. But I think they kind of did away with the idea that they originated the race, although they did kind of do that idea in the cartoon there for a while.
It becomes the comic books can be very convoluted.
Yeah. Oh, I must also say I loved Wheeljack in this. He was perfect.
Wheeljack was awesome. Actually, you know what? One thing we haven't talked about, which we should, because he's kind of a main character for this, is Bumblebee.
Bumblebee, I know. Gon is the plucky little annoying kid. He was a tough guy scavenger.
Yeah, they turned him into a tough guy scavenger and not an original Autobot. He's actually now the reluctant hero, which is an interesting take for him.
I kind of dug it. It was working for me.
And honestly, going with how they, over the last few years, it's been, Bumblebee's been one of his best fighters and most loyal once they're on Earth. You can almost see maybe it's going to be where he gets to that point, because you can definitely see him turning to all of this, and now if he's going to have the Allspark with him, or sorry, the Alpha Trion protocols with him, and that he can see things differently. Maybe that'll kind of gives him that push to really stand up for the cause and really believe in it.
He doesn't have him now. They did get erased. He did have him for an episode.
Yes.
That's it.
But it did change him.
Yeah, he definitely cared a lot more when that happened. It seems like he suddenly was like, "Oh my god, like we need to do this." Where before he was kind of like, I guess I'll help you if I have to."
That was a bit of a throwback to the very first Transformers 80s cartoon, because it opens up with Bumblebee and Wheeljack on Cybertron jacking Energon to survive, and they kind of started that again, same kind of way. I was like, Cybertron, check. Bumblebee and Wheeljack, check. Looking for Energon. I was like, okay, we're really going with some classic themes here.
Yep.
Except this time, Wheeljack, calls him kid, and Bumblebee just calls him kid right back.
Now, one thing is that they kind of killed off some people almost right away, or at least allude to it, because it seems like Cliffjumper's pretty dead, probably.
Yeah, they blew Skywarp's head off. They very arbitrarily killed Moonracer, but as I said to Cole earlier today, Cybertronians are really hard to kill. He's like, I have a feeling we'll just see Skywarp pop back up again.
And you know what? I didn't realize it. Black Arachnia was in an episode.
Was she really? I missed that.
So I just pulled up a list of all the characters that were in Arc 1 Siege, and it says Black Arachnia was in 4 episodes.
Oh shit, how did I get...
Do you mean the voice actress?
No, it says Jian Carr as Black Arachnia.
So where?
Huh?
That's a very good question. I'm going to have to rewatch.
Does it say if she was an Autobot or a Con?
It doesn't. It just literally is just getting like a guy, Skytread, Ultra Magnus, Soundwave, all the different characters, but it literally is as Black Arachnia.
They snuck that one past us.
Yep. Everybody else in the list, they were definitely there.
I'm looking at the IMDb list and I don't see it.
Yeah, it's there, and it's like the 4th name down for Arc 1.
Jian Carr. Interesting. Let me go look at IMDb, because we did not see a spider crawling around. Unless there's a G1 Transformer named Black Arachnia that I'm unaware of.
There is not. That was definitely a Beast Wars thing. Yeah, I've seen everyone here, but that Black Arachnia is...
Yeah, the voice actress's name isn't on the IMDb page, so...
Now I'm searching for images and everything else, trying to figure out where did they sneak her in?
And I mean, if they actually have the voice actress's name there, that must mean that she had some sort of speaking role.
Well, now we got to figure this out.
Well, wouldn't be the first time Wikipedia's lied to us.
So they've gone through the space bridge. Hurrah, hurrah. Like, are they going to end up on Earth and we're just getting G1 all over again? Like, where is it going?
I hope they stay away from Earth. Transformer stuff works so much better when they leave humans out of it.
Well, supposedly, if they're following the War for Cybertron trilogy, they go to Earth in Arc 2, but then they go... All right, I'm not going to spoil it. You'll have to read it for yourself.
Fair enough.
Yeah, because they are supposed to go to Earth to, I think, look for the Allspark, and then other things happen.
Then other things happen in Arc 3, so... Which I actually think you guys might enjoy. So, we'll see what happens.
# bring back Moonracer.